Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Gossips 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The air in Brooke's office felt heavier than usual, a weight that seemed to press on her chest with every heartbeat. Papers were stacked haphazardly on the desk, untouched coffee cooling in its mug, and the faint hum of the air conditioner did little to soothe the tension that crackled like static in the room. She had called Deacon here under the guise of routine discussion, something innocent, something mundane, but in reality the conversation was anything but ordinary. Brooke had never struggled this much to find the right words in her life, and that alone was telling. When Deacon arrived, he seemed uncharacteristically cautious. His eyes scanned the office, lingering on the framed photos of their past, the smiles of families, children, moments frozen in time. He paused at the image of Hope as a toddler, cradled in his arms, and Brooke noticed the subtle tremor in his expression. "Brooke, you sounded urgent on the phone. What's going on?" His voice carried that familiar mix of warmth and unease, the same tone he always used when he was bracing himself for bad news. Brooke took a deep breath, straightening in her chair, trying to summon the courage that had carried her through so many storms in her life. But this was different. This wasn't about business, not about Ridge, not even about the tangled web of love, betrayal, or corporate maneuvering that usually dominated their lives. This was about Hope, their child, or at least the daughter Deacon had believed was his. And she was about to shatter everything he thought he knew. "Deacon, there's something you need to know." "Something about Hope," Brooke began, her voice trembling ever so slightly. She watched as his brow furrowed, confusion flickering across his face. He took a cautious step closer, as if sensing the gravity of her tone. "What about her?" he asked, his voice low, wary. "Brooke, you're scaring me. Is she okay?" Brooke forced a small, sad smile, trying to mask the turmoil roiling inside her. "She's fine, Deacon. Hope's fine. It's not about her health. It's about something else. Something DNA related." Deacon blinked, the words sinking in slowly. "DNA?" His voice caught, a mixture of disbelief and hope intertwining. "You mean like she's not really my daughter?" Brooke's eyes filled with unshed tears, the guilt and heartbreak threatening to swallow her whole. "I'm so sorry, Deacon. I wish this weren't true. I wish I didn't have to tell you this, but the truth is, Hope isn't your biological daughter." For a moment the room seemed to freeze. Time itself appeared to pause, the very air thick with shock. Deacon's hand instinctively went to his chest, as if trying to steady the pounding of his heart. What are you saying, Brooke? That little girl, she's not mine." His voice cracked, disbelief turning to raw, aching pain. Brooke nodded slowly, the tears now spilling freely. "I know it's unthinkable, Deacon. I know it's everything you've believed in, everything you've loved. But the DNA test, it was conclusive. You're not her father." Deacon stumbled backward, grasping the edge of Brooke's desk for support. His mind raced, memories flashing before him. First steps, birthdays, Christmas mornings, the nights spent rocking her to sleep when she was sick. Every moment felt suddenly fragile, like a house of cards on the verge of collapse. "No, that can't be. Brooke, it's impossible," he whispered, shaking his head as if denying the truth could somehow undo it. "I know it feels impossible," Brooke said softly, stepping closer. "Believe me, I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to be the one to hurt you like this. But the tests don't lie, Deacon. And neither can I." Deacon sank into the chair across from her, burying his face in his hands. The weight of betrayal, even though Brooke hadn't intended it maliciously, was suffocating. He had spent years imagining the life he had with Hope, the bond he thought was unbreakable. And now, in the span of a single conversation, that foundation had been ripped away. "Then who is she?" he managed to ask, his voice barely audible. "If she's not mine, who is?" Brooke took a deep breath, the truth like a knife against her chest. "It's complicated, Deacon. It's Ridge." The name hit him like a physical blow. He looked up, eyes wide, heart hammering. "Ridge? Are you serious?" "Oh God, Brooke." His head dropped again, the room spinning with the enormity of the revelation. "Yes," Brooke said gently, reaching out to touch his arm. "I know this is devastating. I know it changes everything. But it doesn't change your love for her. Hope. She will always be your little girl in every way that matters. But biologically, she belongs to Ridge. Deacon sat there trying to process the revelation, his mind torn between anger, grief, and a strange sense of disbelief. Memories of Ridge and Brooke's complicated past, betrayals, reconciliations, heartbreaks, flashed in his mind. And yet, even as he grappled with the truth, a part of him wanted to lash out, to curse the universe for playing such a cruel trick. Brooke watched him, tears streaming down her own face. "I had to tell you, Deacon. You deserve to know the truth. Hope deserves to have a life full of honesty, even if it's complicated. And I had to face the fact that keeping this secret would only hurt everyone more in the long run." Deacon finally lifted his head, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. He looked at Brooke, searching for answers, for comfort, for some kind of lifeline in the storm that had suddenly engulfed him. "Brooke, I don't even know what to say," he admitted, his voice breaking. I loved her. I still love her. But I don't know how to feel about Ridge. About this. About everything." Brooke swallowed hard, her own heart aching. "I know it's a lot to process. Take your time. Just don't push hope away. She needs you. She's always needed you. And no matter what the DNA says, you're her father in every way that truly matters." Deacon nodded slowly, the words sinking in, though the ache in his chest remained. I need to be alone for a while," he whispered, rising unsteadily from the chair. Brooke gave a gentle nod, understanding that some wounds took time to heal, even when love remained. As he left the office, Brooke sank into her chair, hands trembling. The weight of the truth pressed heavily on her, but she knew she had done the right thing. Secrets had a way of destroying everything from the inside out, and sometimes the only path forward was through honesty, no matter how painful. In the days that followed, Deacon tried to navigate the new reality. He spent time with Hope, holding her close, his love unchanged, yet shadowed by the lingering pain of betrayal and uncertainty. Ridge, on the other hand, remained distant, caught in his own guilt and regret over the tangled mess that life had become. And Brooke felt the heavy burden of being the bearer of a truth that could not be undone. Family dinners became strained, conversations tinged with unspoken tension. Hope, blissfully unaware of the storm around her, continued to smile, laugh, and grow, the very image of innocence in a world fraught with adult complications. And though the revelation had shattered the fragile illusions Deacon once held, it had also forged something unbreakable. A love that transcended biology, one that would define his relationship with Hope for the rest of her life. In the end, the DNA bombshell didn't erase the years of memories, the laughter, the tears, or the love. It changed the structure of the family, altered the lines of connection, and forced everyone to face uncomfortable truths. But love, genuine, enduring love, proved to be more resilient than anyone had imagined. And as Brooke watched Deacon tuck Hope into bed one evening, she allowed herself a bittersweet sigh. Life had handed them an unimaginable truth, yet somehow they were still standing. The bonds that truly mattered, love, care, and devotion, had survived, even if the blueprint of family had been rewritten. And in that quiet, fragile moment, Brooke realized that the unthinkable truth, painful as it was, might ultimately lead them all to a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to be a family. The morning after Brooke had broken the news, the mansion felt eerily quiet. Usually the house was alive with laughter, footsteps echoing through the halls, the soft hum of conversation over breakfast. Today, silence hung like a thick curtain. Brooke sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a warm mug of coffee she hadn't really wanted to drink. Her mind replayed the previous day's conversation with Deacon over and over, each replay sharper, more piercing. She could still see the shock on his face, the disbelief that had momentarily frozen him in place. She had expected anger, maybe tears, but the depth of his pain had been more than she had imagined. As she sat in contemplation, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Ridge. Her stomach tightened. She knew this conversation would be inevitable. Ridge had heard rumors, whispers that something had shifted, that Brooke had shared a secret with Deacon. Ridge was never one to be kept in the dark, especially when it concerned family, legacy, and reputation. Brooke hesitated, her thumb hovering over the answer button. She wanted to delay it, to gather her thoughts, but Ridge had always had a way of demanding immediate attention. She pressed the phone to her ear. "Brooke, I heard." Ridge's voice was sharp but controlled. Is it true? Did you tell Deacon? Yes, Brooke admitted softly. I had to, Ridge. He needed to know the truth about Hope. About everything. There was a pause. Ridge's voice dropped heavier now. Brooke, how could you? Brooke swallowed hard. I didn't want to hurt anyone, Ridge. I never wanted to hurt you or him or Hope. But hiding the truth, it would have destroyed us eventually. Deacon deserved to know. Hope deserves to grow up with honesty, no matter how painful. Ridge ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture he always did when anger and worry intertwined. And what about me, Brooke? Did anyone consider my feelings in this? My daughter, my biological daughter, being raised by someone who isn't, by someone else. Brooke felt a pang of guilt but stood firm. Ridge, you'll always have a connection to Hope. That can never be erased. You gave her life, you gave her everything that matters. But Deacon, he's her father in every other way. He's been there for her, loved her, cared for her. And that matters just as much. Ridge sighed deeply, a sound that carried a mix of resignation and frustration. You're right, Brooke. But this changes everything. Deacon believes he's her father. And now I don't know how to face him, how to face Hope. Take it one step at a time, Brooke advised gently. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight. And it's going to hurt. But it can also bring clarity, honesty, and maybe a better foundation for all of you moving forward. Meanwhile, Deacon had retreated to his apartment, trying to process the magnitude of Brooke's revelation. Every object in the room seemed to taunt him with memories. The tiny shoes neatly lined on a shelf, Hope's favorite blanket folded on the couch, drawings pinned to the fridge. Each item carried the weight of years of love and devotion, of milestones he had celebrated as a father. And now, in the wake of the DNA bombshell, everything felt both sacred and impossibly fragile. He sank into his armchair, head in hands. He couldn't stop thinking about the first time he held Hope, how she had smiled up at him with those big innocent eyes that seemed to hold the entire universe. Was it all a lie? Could those moments mean nothing biologically, yet still be real in the heart? Deacon's phone buzzed. It was Liam. His son, or at least the child he had considered part of his extended family. Sensing something was off, Deacon didn't answer. Not yet. He needed silence, the raw solitude to make sense of the chaos inside his head. After what felt like hours, he finally stood, moving to the window. He looked out over the city, the skyline reflecting the sunlight, yet nothing seemed real anymore. He realized that this truth didn't erase the love he had for Hope. It didn't erase the years he had spent with her. And yet, it changed the dynamics, the structure of their family. That reality stung more than anything else. Back at Forrester Creations, Brooke convened an urgent meeting with Ridge. The tension was palpable. The normally bustling office seemed muted, hushed whispers of assistants sensing the unease floating in the air. Brooke began to outline the sequence of events, the DNA test results, and the confrontation with Deacon. Ridge's jaw clenched, his hands tapping impatiently on the polished conference table. So you've told him, Ridge said finally, his voice brittle with emotion. And what, does he know the full story? About how this happened? Brooke nodded. Yes. He knows the DNA isn't his. He knows that biologically, Hope belongs to you. But emotionally, he's her father in every way that counts. That part, that can't be taken away. Ridge exhaled slowly. Brooke, I don't know if I can handle seeing him around her like nothing's changed. He raised her, loved her, and it wasn't mine to give him. How do we navigate this? Brooke leaned forward, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside. We take it day by day. We protect Hope from the fallout. We maintain the relationships that matter. And we make sure she knows she is loved by both of you. Nothing else matters as much as that. Days turned into weeks, and the delicate balance of emotions in Los Angeles grew more complicated. Deacon struggled with the duality of being a father figure, while reconciling the truth of Ridge's paternity. Ridge, too, waded through guilt, resentment, and a desire to connect with Hope, who remained blissfully unaware of the complicated adult decisions shaping her world. Brooke, as always, tried to mediate, smoothing over tensions while grappling with the guilt of being the messenger of such devastating truth. At Hope School, Deacon volunteered to help with an art project. Ridge appeared later to drop her off for a dance recital. The awkwardness between the two men was palpable. Neither spoke initially, but Hope, radiant and oblivious to adult turmoil, ran to Deacon with open arms. Ridge watched silently, heart heavy yet proud. "You missed a practice," Deacon said softly, hugging Hope close. "I know, but I'm here now," she replied, her innocence cutting through the tension like sunlight through clouds. Ridge approached cautiously. "Mind if I?" he asked, gesturing to take Hope's hand. She looked at him and smiled brightly, then turned to him, offering her small hand freely. Deacon glanced at Ridge, something unspoken passing between them. It was acknowledgement, maybe even a fragile truce. For now love for Hope was bigger than the mistakes, secrets and DNA revelations that had threatened to unravel them all. That evening Brooke sat on the terrace, sipping wine and staring at the twinkling lights of Los Angeles below. She felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, knowing the DNA bombshell had changed the lives of everyone involved. But she also recognized the resilience of love. Families could survive betrayal, lies, and shocking truths, as long as the bonds of care and commitment remained strong. She reflected on Hope's laughter that afternoon, the warmth in Deacon's eyes, and the quiet pride in Ridge's expression. Despite the turmoil, a fragile harmony had begun to form. It wouldn't be easy and wounds wouldn't heal overnight, but the foundation for truth, honesty, and enduring love had been laid. Brooke whispered to herself almost like a prayer, "We'll get through this. We have to, for Hope." And for the first time in weeks, she allowed herself a flicker of hope that, even in a world of lies and shocking revelations, love could prevail. The following morning, the mansion was far from calm. Brooke moved through the halls like a storm warning, her mind racing as she thought about the delicate situation. She knew that Deacon was still reeling from the revelation, and Ridge's simmering anger and guilt could erupt at any moment. Even Hope, blissfully unaware of the adult secrets that swirled around her, seemed unusually quiet as she played with her dolls in the living room. Brooke paused by the staircase, watching the way Hope's small hands moved over the tiny figures. There was a subtle tension in the child's shoulders, a reflection of the tension she couldn't yet articulate. Brooke's heart tightened. She wanted to protect Hope from the storm, but now that the truth was out, shielding her completely was impossible. She reminded herself that honesty, even when painful, was necessary for a foundation built on trust. Meanwhile, Deacon had returned to the apartment he had once called home alone but now shared emotionally with Hope in his mind, if not yet physically. The night had been long, filled with restless tossing and turning, replaying Brooke's words over and over. "Not my daughter, not biologically mine. Ridge." The thoughts collided in his mind like violent waves, threatening to pull him under. He remembered the first time he had held Hope, how she had clung to his neck with a trusting smile, her tiny arms wrapped around him like an anchor. That memory refused to let go. He realized that while DNA could define biology, it could never define the love, the bond, or the countless moments that had shaped them. Hope had been his world, and that wasn't changing, at least not in his heart. Ridge, on the other hand, paced his office at Forrester Creations, phone pressed to his ear as he tried to reach Brooke again. "I don't understand why you did it now," he said sharply, running a hand through his hair. "Why tell him? Why disrupt everything?" Brooke's voice was calm but firm. "Because it was going to come out eventually, Ridge. Secrets don't stay buried forever. And Hope deserves the truth about who she is, even if it hurts all of us." Ridge let out a frustrated sigh, leaning back in his chair. I know she deserves honesty. But the timing, Brooke, you know how emotional Deacon is. You know how much he loves her. This isn't just going to hurt him. It's going to change everything. Family dinners, holidays, even her sense of security." Brooke's gaze softened. "It's painful now, yes. But in the long run, this honesty will give her a stronger foundation. She'll understand that love isn't just about blood. It's about the people who show up, who nurture her, who guide her through life. That's what really matters." Meanwhile, Deacon had decided he couldn't remain isolated any longer. He drove to the park where Hope loved to play, wanting to see her, hear her laughter, and reassure himself that the bond they shared couldn't be undone by science. He found her building sandcastles, completely absorbed in her imaginative world. "Hey, princess," he said softly, kneeling beside her. Hope looked up, eyes brightening instantly. "Hi, Daddy," she exclaimed, running into his arms. The word daddy cut through the weight in his chest like sunlight breaking through clouds. For a brief moment the world felt right again. Ridge, watching from a distance, felt an ache in his chest but also a stirring of hope. He realized that while the DNA revelation had changed the technical truth, it hadn't erased the emotional bonds, the love, and the care that Deacon had poured into Hope's life. Later that evening, Brooke and Ridge met in the quiet of the terrace, the city lights sparkling below them. "It's going to take time," Brooke said gently, sipping her wine. "But they'll find a way." Deacon, Ridge, Hope, all of them. Families are resilient. Love is resilient. Ridge nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "You're right. I just wish the path here didn't hurt so much. But I see it now, Brooke. Deacon, he's been there in ways I could never be. And Hope, she's loved by both of us. That's what matters." Brooke reached for his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "Exactly. That's what matters." As they sat in the warm glow of the terrace lights, the weight of yesterday's revelation began to lift slightly. They had faced the unthinkable, and while the road ahead was uncertain, there was a fragile peace settling into place. Love, after all, wasn't defined by biology, it was defined by the hearts willing to give it. And in that moment Brooke knew that no matter what twists and turns awaited them, Hope would always be surrounded by love, even if the truth had to be hard to hear.